Meanwhile, a big update in a Ponzi scheme fronted through a West Springfield business and uncovered by state officials. The 83-year-old woman allegedly behind it has agreed to plead guilty in federal court after defrauding 204 people out of a combined $11 million. It comes nearly a year after the state brought similar charges against her for the same crime, which we told you about last August. The Department of Justice announcing 83-year-old Barbara Hirschfield of Lexington is willing to admit to wire fraud accusations raised by the state and now the federal government. In August 2025, state investigators announced findings of their years-long investigation, alleging Hirschfield was running Ideal Financial Services in West Springfield, a company investors believed was her decades-old family business. In 2012, the state ordered the company stop soliciting before revoking its operational license in 2014. Charging documents say by at least 2019, Ideal was being run as a Ponzi scheme, continuing to sell to new investors to pay off existing ones, with no real revenue coming in. By June 2025, Hirschfield was no longer able to pay off interest or any outstanding principal owed to previous investors. In announcing new federal charges this week, the DOJ alleges Hirschfield blamed repayment delays on banking issues, fraud, data breaches, and stolen or lost checks. All the while, prosecutors say Hirschfield still was soliciting investments through email, offering increasingly high rates of return. According to the Office of Secretary of the Commonwealth, a large portion of impacted investors live in the Springfield area, with many related to one another and some possibly being descendants from those who invested in Ideal in its early years. The office summarizing the greater impact for those victims, stating, quote, fraudulent business operations have deprived families of retirement funds, funds for unexpected expenses, and of financial security as they prepare to send their children and grandchildren off to college. Hirschfield told authorities she'll plead guilty to 5 counts of wire fraud in Springfield federal court at a later date. The charge of wire fraud carries a sentence of up to 20 years in prison and a $250,000 fine.